Welcome to the Time to Grow podcast. We take you behind the scenes of the rapidly growing natural products industry. Join Kyle on his journey as he chats with retail buyers, founders, entrepreneurs, investors, mentors, and so much more. This is Time to Grow. And here's your host, Kyle Marsham.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Time to Grow podcast. I'm extremely excited about the guest today. She's passionate about two things: culture and people, and global flavors and healthy eating, right? I think I'm very passionate about those things as well. I think a lot of people would be. For the first 25 years of your career, you helped lead people in culture strategy. So we're going to dive into that because that's super exciting.
Sure.
For high growth tech companies.
Yep.
Right. So that's even more fascinating.
Yeah.
And during that time, they saw, significant growth.
Yeah.
So it just shows, how important people, relationships, and continuing to nurture those relationships and value people in your company is.
Totally.
Right?
To me, it's a foundation. You're not going to be a viable business without that.
Yeah, it's super important. So I'm excited to talk about that today. And then you've come full circle, right? You've pivoted from tech to taste.
Yeah.
And today you're the founder and chief flavor officer, which I love, of Sachili.
Yep.
Did I say that right?
Sachili.
Flavor company that's innovating the way we experience food.
Yeah.
So it's my pleasure to Sachi.
Yeah,
Sachi
you got it.
Kittur.
Kittur.
To the Time to Grow podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Super excited.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in helping lead people in culture.
Yeah. So like a lot of students, when you go to university, you're kind of thinking, okay, I went into a business degree and I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to specialize in? And lucky for me, year two, I had this amazing summer job where I was matching students with employers. So Jobs Ontario, it was a very popular program then. And having worked in that program, the light bulb went off, and I'm like, okay, this is something meaningful to me. And so my last 2 years specialized in human resources. And fun fact, my first job when I graduated, I was working at the Mars factory, if you know the chocolate bars.
Mm-hmm.
Mars factory, my first job was hiring 24/7 assembly line of staff. And that was a tough job and tough learning. But yeah, and I haven't looked back since until I embarked on Sachili.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. So what is the process for cultivating culture? Because you go on LinkedIn, you can go on social, you can talk to people. It seems to be a very common topic that all businesses are trying to dive into, but it's so much more than just buying a picnic table or a ping pong table and a espresso machine or whatever.
Totally.
So what is that all about?
You nailed it. I think with culture, there's no template out there. So it depends on your leader. Mm-hmm. It depends on the type of industry you're in. It depends on the generation of employees. Do you have baby boomers? Do you have millennials? And so, but there's a simple approach, which is it starts at the top, and whatever culture and values you're preaching, your top leadership has to drink the Kool-Aid. And if they do not, and if they're just words in an employee handbook, you're not going to get to your goal of building an authentic, engaging culture.
So how does it work if, I'm assuming a large tech company brings you on, and then you start with the leadership team and put those mission, goals, objectives on a board, and then how do you trickle it down to the team?
So before we even do that, we do focus groups and deep interviews. I've always done this whenever I parachute into a company, speak to the leadership team, speak to the employees, get different perspectives on what they think the cultural challenges are.
Is it very different from the top?
Yes, I was just going to say, and it rarely matches up. And so that in lies the issue, right? And that in itself is my first clue in terms of, okay, there's a disconnect here. And I think a lot of it is educating the leadership team in the role that they play. A lot of people think, oh yeah, we hired an HR person. They're gonna fix our culture. Actually, no. I'm gonna be the architect that's gonna help build culture, but you guys are all a part of the equation.
So how do you do that?
I think it's really listening to the employees, because culture is about, at the end of the day, engaging. It's about people and engaging your employees. So I think listening to them and actually putting them in the driver's seat in terms of, if you were responsible for culture, what would you do? What would you change? What would you add? And I think that empowerment is really where it all starts, when you start listening and you start acting. Because listening is great. If there's no action behind it, then you're going to, the culture issues are going to loom. And so I think listening to the employees and then getting buy-in from the leadership team on what those changes need to be. Making sure. Right. So I'm almost like I had a CEO tell me once that it's like when I'm with the leadership team feels like HR, Sachi is there to support me or us. Mm-hmm. And then when I'm with the employees, they feel the exact same way. And that is when you know you're doing the right job.
How do you manage the balancing act of, inspiring a good culture and maybe a financial implication with the company? Because a lot of time I would think a CEO hears culture and he hears dollar signs maybe, or he's got to invest here, but, but sales aren't going up, or, marketing screaming for money. Like, how do you balance all of it?
I think you have to think outside the box. Culture building does not mean spending money. It means listening to your employees and supporting some of the ideas. A lot of the ideas are policy driven. It's not even about spending money. And I'd say from my experience, when I talk to CEOs, I typically end up giving them a sort of some data on ROI. How much does it cost when an employee leaves? They leave. You have to hire somebody. You have to train them. You have to onboard them. It takes 3 to 6 months before they're up to the productivity of the person that you're replacing. Not to mention the ripple effect of the people that are super motivated and super engaged, and they're seeing, oh, how come they're leaving? How come they're leaving? So their motivation, it actually has a real trickle effect. So it is in the company's best interest to try to retain talent at all times. And the way you do it is through culture.
What are some things, you work with some large companies. Did you work with any small companies?
I actually mostly work, the only exception to that is Yahoo Canada. Do you remember that? For the people that actually remember Yahoo. That would have been the exception. Most companies I joined, I was employee number 30, 40, and my trajectory usually took us to 300, 400 employees. So small to mid-size.
Because that leads into my question. What are some things you can do prior to maybe 15 employees to instill that productive climb of instilling culture?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the hardest part. Usually companies go from like 10 employees and then they have a insane amount of growth. Yeah. And then culture gets impacted because it's sell, or market.
Totally.
And it gets kind of crazy, higher. Yeah. And then next thing you know, then you hit a plateau. Yep. And you're like, what's going on? Now people are leaving. We don't have a mission or anything like that.
Yeah.
So what kind of guidance do you give there?
It's actually really quite simple. I mean, you're absolutely right in terms of that sort of panic that happens at a certain point in the trajectory of the company. Yeah. And when you're 10, 15, 20, it's very simple. You write down your values, what you stand for as a company, and you start hiring your leaders against those values. Because the leaders that you hire at that point are the ones that are actually going to be leading, inspiring, motivating the employees. If you don't hire the right people at that point, that's when the issues start. So values alignment and leadership integrity.
Have you ever given guidance on maybe removing somebody from a company? Like
many times.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even want, like I've been in I've had to see oversee very sticky situations where your number one, actually not number one, I'd say number two, number three member of the leadership team was actually a cancer and completely eroding the culture, but they did such a good job managing up. It's hard to get to the root. And yeah, I've had many of those situations.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I can see that probably happening a lot.
Yeah.
Just because of, how the company grew and scaled, and sometimes it's people that were close to you maybe took advantage of you, or whatever the situation is. I could see that with many companies.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
What are if someone's listening to this podcast, a lot of them are young entrepreneurs in the CPG space.
Yeah.
What's maybe one thing they could do after listening to this that could impact maybe a better culture in their company?
Yeah, I'd say as a leader, so if you're embarking on entrepreneurship, you're a founder, you're going to be building and growing your team, I think you need to be authentic. Don't come in and put on a different face of CEO versus who I am outside when I walk outside the office door. You have to be yourself. And I think you have to lead with compassion. It's a lot of the CEOs that where there were a lot of challenges, there was very low EQ and very low compassion.
Yeah, I would say it's tough because you have to balance that with also being a CEO. You also have to drive a business forward, right? And there's if things aren't progressing in the right way, you also have to be stern, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but balance compassion, right?
Yeah, you do. And when I say compassion, what I'm saying is it doesn't mean that you're not hitting your goals and therefore I'm just going to be like, yeah, no problem. Compassion to me is setting realistic goals and supporting your success, and recognizing that everybody individually, their how is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So the way they go about it is going to be different. So that all comes from a place of compassion. Otherwise, we're all robots, right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Expected to do A, B, C.
What does culture actually mean to you?
There's so many definitions out there. I'm going to give you a really interesting one and I posted this on LinkedIn a while ago, and it really resonated with me. Culture to me is the feeling you get on a Sunday night before you go into work Monday morning. That to me is culture. If you're excited, you're happy, you can't wait, to me that tells me a culture story. And if it's the opposite, that tells you a story too.
Sometimes Sundays I'm excited, sometimes Sundays I'm not. It depends what's on the agenda for that week, I guess. But no, I would totally agree with that. That's a very
Isn't it a powerful way to look at culture?
Looking at it, it's
that feeling in your stomach on Sunday night.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
How do you make people feel like that? And we've touched on it quite a few times already. In the books I read about leadership, it's making that individual feel empowered, feel excited, feel like they're learning something on a daily basis, that they're growing. How do you do that? Because it's a lot of work and consistency, right?
It is. I think we like to overcomplicate culture and engagement and employee happiness. Let's take you or your staff, for example. What do you want to do ultimately? You want to do meaningful work.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be around people that are kind and that you enjoy being around, that inspire you. And you want to know when the CEO stands up and says, hey, we hit our goals, you know exactly what role you played. And that's really ultimately what it boils down to. Meaningful work, being around people that you can connect with and relate to, and knowing the role that you play in the company's success.
Can you be my business coach, leadership coach?
Yeah, I'm happy to be your leadership coach.
No, it's something I struggle with probably every day. It's just sometimes you had a long day and it's maybe you didn't give that person as much attention, or maybe they don't feel valued on that call. Or, So listening, it's like you said, it's something that you're just not good at naturally, right? You really have to train that skill. And like I was saying, it's something I had to learn, and once you learn it, you notice the things that you were doing that maybe
Yeah.
impacted that person,
Totally.
right? That ruined their thought or devalued their thought or
Yeah.
something like that. It's
Yeah.
listening. I
And
would have to
especially when
agree.
you're a leader, because the reason you're a good leader and a successful leader is because it's about your ideas, your expression, your vision, and that's all typically you sharing, right? Versus you listening. So it's even a bigger challenge for us as leaders.
Exactly. Does a ping pong table and an espresso machine play a little bit of a role in culture?
I know Google and Microsoft really
I want to get one. I love ping pong, so
really created a misconception of
Yeah.
what those particular perks.
like an ongoing joke.
Yeah, it really is. I think it's what they represent, right? It's
Exactly.
not the actual physical, gaming room and ping pong room. To
Work
me, it's
hard,
what it
play hard.
represents, that you can come here and work, but we also want you to relax, enjoy, and get some downtime, hang out with your colleagues. And I think it's that representation that's more important than the actual.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
Yeah.
So 25 years kind of corporate life,
Yeah.
helping build culture, to completely transitioning to
Yeah.
starting your own CPG brand. What was that like?
Yeah. Am I allowed to complain? No. I'm sitting here because you have deep roots in CPG, and boy, it's not an easy industry, right? You can be the smartest leader, entrepreneur, but the CPG ecosystem just brings its own set of challenges. But yeah, no regrets, but it's been a little bit of a journey.
What inspired that transition?
I think if you look at, one thing, I've reported into 6 CEOs in my entire career. And in my last role, I said, my next pivot, I'm going to be the CEO. And I know it sounds kind of arrogant, but it was just a goal that I set. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know how. I was thinking a people culture HR app initially. That was kind of the project that I had, the idea. And Sachili kind of evolved in my kitchen. It was a product that I created, and a light bulb went off, and looking at the market and the gap, and I said, okay, let's do it.
Were you always inspired by food and spices in
Yeah.
that previously? And
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. I was born in Africa, raised, immigrated to Canada, raised in a traditional South Asian household, and I was around spices. That's all I ever saw. And so in my adulthood, I started to, before fusion became a thing, it was like me making my masala potato pizza or samosa dumplings because they were healthier. So yeah, that's always been a part of my DNA, for sure.
Are you finding that the Canadian industry culture is really ripe for this type of product, for these type of spices?
I think if you look at Sachili, we're ready to eat. So the product that you're seeing here, it's a ready to eat chili crunch topping. You don't cook with it. There's no recipes. It's cuisine agnostic. It's not South Asian. It's not Asian. It's not Mexican. So really the idea behind the product is whatever you and I eat every day. It's a really simple, non-intimidating way to bring global flavors into our plate. So I put it on my eggs. I put it on my pasta. Avocado toast is fantastic.
It really elevates that
Yeah,
food
it
experience.
elevates the meal, and to me, and if you look at the studies, so you're asking, do I think Canadian consumers are ready? If you look at Mintel, Specialty Food, these are all well-known publications on consumer trends. Coming out of the pandemic, consumers are looking for inspiration and excitement, and it applies to travel. And it actually also applies to cuisine and palate. So I actually think, ironically, even though I had started Sachili pre-pandemic as a side hustle, if you look at this macro trend, I'd say consumers are ready now more than ever.
Yeah, I would totally agree. What went into the packaging design and in the manufacturing of the product?
So it's actually a very simple product. Sachili Original, which is a product with the pink label. That was the first SKU we started. 5 ingredients, high quality chilies, sea salt, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of grapeseed oil, and we slow roast it. So it's about simplicity and clean ingredients. The packaging, to me, I don't know if you pick up on it, to me, it kind of has that global
100%. Yeah,
right?
I would totally agree.
But it's not, I don't have like paisleys on there for South Asian or, so again, being still global, but generic and color, right? Inspiration.
Yeah.
We eat with our eyes. So the color was really important.
It's nice, and it has a nice pop to it. I can see it
Yeah.
being in multiple places of a store, multiple locations within a grocery store, and it has that pop that inspires you to go pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. And then we put some inspiration on the top too. That's a new addition to give consumers. So every time you pick up the jar, you look at the lid and you're like, oh yeah, I have some ideas on what to do with it.
What does the business structure look like? Social marketing distribution look like right now?
It is very grassroots right now. I have been, so we're still like small relative to other CPG brands. And I think, so I've been doing this full-time 1 year. It was part-time as we discussed. And so right now I think we are getting ourselves organized in a way. So we have a national distributor now. We have 2 co-packers now. We have a co-packer in the U.S. because we're getting into food services in the U.S.
Okay.
And so we're now kind of orchestrating that foundation in anticipation of
The fun part.
scale. Yeah, not the fun part, but yeah, fun part, sure.
What have you learned from starting a business in this space?
Oh, so much, so much. I think, so I came from tech. My entire network was tech. I came into CPG, and I think I was naive in not understanding how important connections were in CPG. And to me, that was my biggest hurdle coming in. Luckily, I'm good at relationship building. I'm good at networking. So I had to hustle a little bit more. But you have to know CPG is deeply, deeply rooted in connections and who you know.
Yeah, I would agree. It's very relationship
Very
driven.
relationship driven. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. From all aspects of it, all aspects of the value chain, it's relationship driven. You can speed up how fast your product gets accepted with the distributors or into retail or whatever. What did you learn specifically to getting product to retail that was shocking? Because that's maybe one thing we notice with new brands or people entering the industry, that it's like, and it's one thing I noticed right away, like when I was managing Whole Foods, I was like, holy crap, there's a lot that it takes to go from like product to on shelf, right? You think it's so simple as a consumer. It's like, it's like there's 50 steps, there's 100 things with paperwork. Totally. It's kind of insane to like get that product in that planogram at the right price, right? Promotion, whatever.
Yeah. I think for me to get it on shelf, I had to leverage data because it has to be rooted in who are my consumers and why are they going to buy Sachili, right? So for me, I tried to kind of bring use cases, competitor analysis, like Chili Crisp is on, like it's everywhere now. And so I think that education and really bringing in as much data, arming myself with as much data. And also I'm the founder, my vision, whether I'm inspiring or not also has something comes to play. So I think I had to really make sure I drill down on my vision and my passion for the product.
I love that you put pizza in big letters, right? You should have it on every bunker, right? I think I was in Sobeys last night doing groceries, and there's a massive bunker, frozen bunker dedicated to frozen pizzas. Right? Yeah. That should be on every top of every bunker, right? And if you go to a pizza, you go to any pizza joint, they have chili flakes. The generic one.
the
This is
stale,
like an
generic.
elevated experience that would
Yeah.
that I could see taking over that.
So
that,
it's so
that flavor
funny.
profile.
I think I'm going to have to hit you up for your pizza industry contest now, because that's exactly what we're doing. We are doubling down on partnerships. I have an email into Pizza, their culinary R&D person, Pizza Nova. Our vision is that little single-serve Sachili sachets every time somebody buys, to really introduce it and do a pilot. And I'm pretty confident it's going to be like, oh, where do I get that? And so with the online e-commerce play now, we could kind of integrate into that. So there's some creative things, but pizza is hands down number one. Not too far behind eggs, actually.
I have a really cool idea if you want to hear it.
I want to hear it. Tell me, pitch to me.
Green Fresh is in the business of influencer marketing. We love to showcase brands in the hands of influencers and get people to drive traffic to retail and inspire all those different usage occasions of food. My idea is you should gather all the Toronto influencers that align with your brand, get them into a commercial kitchen and do like a pizza baking session all with the spices and document that whole experience. And then you're getting the coverage and the influence of those creators in the community, talking, sharing, having fun cooking. I think that'd be really cool.
All right. Yeah. You gave me the hook.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Let's do part 2.
For sure.
Great idea.
Where can we find the product today?
So products today, we're in the Sobeys local program. We're also in the Loblaws local program, 140 stores across Ontario. Just about to launch in the Metro local program. So we've been doing the local because it's an easy way to get our foot in the door. But ultimately, now that we're with Unify, the goal is obviously to get in the planogram and get a more permanent footprint.
Yeah, we just had Sherry Evans on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and we went deep into what that local program looks like and how important it is to local entrepreneurs. What has your experience been with not just the Sobeys local program, but the others and what that's done for your business?
So what I'd say is I think Sobeys and Sherry actually deserve a special shout out on that, because being a part of 2 other local programs, it's obvious to me that they're doing it right. There's something that they're getting right that the others aren't. And so, but having said that, just anecdotally, the barriers to entry that you typically see are just not there. I'm not paying listing fees. I'm not paying, I can be merchandised in premium space in the store, and it's not costing me an arm and a leg. The free fills, everything that adds up, that as an early stage brand would actually put you out of business. I think we're able to kind of get past that. And frankly speaking, get trial with consumers and get feedback. The demos are really good. Like we have some demos. I have this really great story. Christmas, we did Loblaw. We did a bunch of demos back to back. And in 2 hours, we set a record and sold 60 jars of Sachili in 2 hours.
Wow, that's
and
incredible.
So there's a high, like, wow factor when we demo and people like it. And to me as a founder, there's nothing more heartwarming than that.
What's the retailer?
The retailer where we did that?
What's the SRP?
Retail price?
Yeah, retail price.
$9.99.
$9.99.
Yeah.
What was the retailer?
Loblaws.
Yeah, Loblaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, demos, getting that trial, that firsthand trial is so important.
Yeah.
What was it like for, and this is for the audience, for the young entrepreneur trying to follow in those footsteps. So you get accepted to the local program.
Yeah.
And this is one thing Sherry brought up. There's, you get listed, you get the opportunity to be in those stores, but it doesn't guarantee you shelf space. You still have to do the hard work, get your elbows out and get into those stores, and then inspire that store manager, that grocery manager, one at a time. Yeah. Right? What has that been like, and what would you share?
It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. That takes a lot of time and effort. I think you have to get creative. And if I had to hit 120 Sobeys stores, that's going to be, it's my full-time, it's a full-time job. I need to hire somebody to replace me. So I think you have to get creative. And so for us, it was, I created, actually, Sherry hopefully she's okay with me sharing, but I pitched an idea to her. I'm going to give you an inspirational email, recipe, images. Can you send this out? Can you do a little shout out? And then that way, when I come to the store and I meet some of the managers, they've already got a little bit of a sort of a preview.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was you that messaged or she mentioned it, but there's thousands of products she's introduced through this local program, right? And there's how much shelf space is there?
Yeah.
Not thousands,
No.
right? So it's how does that store manager pick those products? What inspires him? What's inspiring the consumer to try?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it comes down to, the P&L of Sobeys, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have to pick and choose and go about it like a business, right? Is there anything outside of that stands out to you that you're doing? Like, are you doing social? What role does social play?
I'd
promotions.
Say, so social's really interesting in that. I think, we did micro-influencer marketing. We did the collabs. We did, we kind of dabbled in all the trends. I think for us, and you can maybe validate this, the things that we did 6 months ago are no longer going to be effective in terms of the ROI.
Totally
so
agree.
the pace of change in social media, I feel like, and then maybe this is where you get a plug in, because I think that's something that you need to outsource and give to experts, because it's complicated. So we did all of that. I'd say the single best way to get your product to stand out is trial for us.
Yeah,
And demos. And we had single serve sachets, limited edition, because it's expensive, but we offered those up. We did Sobeys at Leaside. I spoke to the prepared foods, and we were offering Sachili on pizza, as people were taking advantage. You want a little bit of Sachili? Are you okay with a little bit of heat? And so I think you have to get creative, and you have to engage the consumers beyond just a product on a shelf.
And it does change so fast, like not even year by year, it's month by month. Things are changing, right?
Imagine.
A new platform or an update on a social platform, or, even the retailer updates something, or, their e-commerce thing pivots or whatever. That's one of the reasons why I transitioned to video, right? YouTube Shorts are really taking off. We noticed that we were investing dollars in Instagram Reels, but then Facebook Reels were exploding, and no one was really tapping into that. And I'm like, Facebook, older demographic. I don't even go on Facebook anymore. But then we invested in it. Eyeballs went up, impressions went up, and that was really successful.
Yeah.
But then, like 2 months later, it pivoted back to Instagram Reels, and then obviously there's TikTok, and then now LinkedIn is insanely valuable, right? How are you using LinkedIn today?
LinkedIn, to me, I had to jump on the bandwagon of promoting Sachi versus Sachili, my brand. And it's great because I get to express, I have so many ideas and so many things I want to express, and I want people to learn, and I want to learn. And so it's become a platform for me to, as a leader, to showcase, my learnings and also comment on other people's and learn.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you have so much to share from your experience. I love that Sunday morning analogy of what culture should feel like.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's LinkedIn is such a exciting platform, I think, for B2B.
Yeah.
But it's almost turning into this consumer driven kind of platform as well, because we're all consumers at heart, right? It's creating this 24-hour trade show environment, and some people talk a little bit negatively about it, like it's so positive and there's this weird energy sometimes, but I think it's fantastic. Everyone that's on there is collaborative, wants to help the next person.
The information, the free information that flows on LinkedIn that once upon a time you had to pay for is mind-boggling to me. My screenshots, whenever I see something, I'm like, I can't keep up with it. One interesting thing with LinkedIn and sales, we're going to be launching on Skip the Dishes very soon.
Ooh, I like that.
And so, again, very much aligned to the pizza, food service. You're ordering a burger and fries, and Sachili pops up, and you can throw it into your cart. That entire sales process was initiated on LinkedIn.
Wow.
Yeah. So it actually there is a direct ROI.
Yeah, and looking at the data on on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I probably do it once a week or once a month. We dive into, who's looking at our content and stuff like that. But it's mostly retailers that are looking at some of our content within Marsham. So I'm like looking at it. We're posting about a new brand that we're launching or innovation that's coming in the pipeline, and then it's Loblaws, Whole Foods, Sobeys, Metro. All these retailers are absorbing the content. So it's like, holy crap, this is like way more powerful than just community. It's a whole business generator.
It is. And I think there's a bit of credibility that comes with LinkedIn. There's some street creds, so I know when I read stuff and versus Facebook, let's say, or another platform.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. What's next for Sachili?
Well, we are, it's interesting. We went to the U.S. Fancy Food Show in Vegas in January, and lots of interest, lots of excitement. But I'll tell you, the channel that literally fell in our lap is food services. So we're doubling down on food services. 70% of Sachili resources are now going to go into food services, college and universities. We're doing a pilot with a major hotel chain, which I can't say yet. And so I think that is where the growth opportunity lies for Sachili. And not to discredit retail. Retail is a long-term play. And so we can still do that organically. But food service, if you look at the type of product we have, and it can have so many applications.
Yeah, no, when you see an opportunity, come up, you have to pivot a little bit.
You do.
What are you experiencing going into food service that you didn't expect, right? Are you changing the size, the format, all of the above?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're basically, that's why I'm doing a couple of pilots to really learn and understand. And so we're introducing, I'm going to have 250,000 single-serve sachets of each of our SKUs. We're introducing a fourth one. And so if you imagine going to a restaurant, you've got your sugar, salt, pepper, and then whenever you want something a little bit more, what do you do? What do you ask for? You ask for Frank's. You ask for the same old. So what I envision is a little Sachili sachet, and that's what we're doing with the hotel, that consumers and guests can self-select and take it with them.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. So that's kind of and then we've got the larger pouches and other options too.
What have you learned about the U.S. market and expanding across the border?
I think
it's daunting for Canadians.
It is. So on the surface, everybody, we've all heard the stats. California, Texas, as standalone states have the same market size as all of Canada. So I get that. That's the math. I'd say the ecosystem is completely different for CPG and for food service. So I think there's this period of learning where it's almost like you can't just go to market. Like you need to spend 6 months. If that's a decision you're making, you got to figure out the how, and the how is going to come from research and really understanding. So it's very different to Canada. So whatever you learned in Canada may not apply.
Yeah.
And a lot more competition, obviously, but a lot more opportunity.
Yeah, you have to be very strategic, and California, Texas, Florida, New York have very strategic pockets of consumers, and that's why we go to Expo West every year. It's like California's the hub.
Yeah,
and it kind of goes out. It goes up into Vancouver, and then it finally comes to Ontario 5 years later. Right? It's like if you followed kombucha, it started in LA.
It's so true.
And then it finally made its way over here, and then we're okay with kombucha now.
Yeah, exactly. So food service, and then the one thing I do want to mention is that we have Sachili popcorn coming out, which is going to be infusion of our seasonings of the flavor profiles in a popcorn, and I'm super excited about that because there's no global flavor popcorn out there today.
So actual popcorn or seasoning for the popcorn?
No, it's actual popcorn.
Single serve bags. Is this like the first time you've publicly said that? Or was that on
we launched it. We had some issues with our production, so we had to kind of put the brakes on.
Oh, okay.
We've already got I've got 60 stores already taking it, and we're pitching to Circle K. It's an urban convenience product. It's not something that you're going to see in the large superstores or anything.
Premium price?
Premium price.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I can see that being really successful.
And colleges and universities, like you name it. Lots and lots of potential.
before we wrap up, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur today?
I'd say if you're going to embark on entrepreneurship today, this climate right now, you really need to do your homework. There's a lot of volatility regarding whether you're in tech, whether you're in food. There's no VC money out there, so you better have cash. And I'd say, and then so do your homework and understand the risks. And then the other piece of advice I give to a lot of entrepreneurs is go find a founder that's 3 years ahead of where you think you want to be. Go pick their brain, go learn, ask the tough questions. You're going to come out of it with your eyes open in terms of what you're up against. And
so it's easier than ever to find those people too.
It is LinkedIn.
Just DM somebody. And it's surprising because I've reached out to a lot of people, and it's surprising how willing they are to give their advice.
Yeah, that's how I met Susie York. Yeah. I literally pinged her on LinkedIn, and she's been absolutely instrumental in making sure that I have a realistic lens on where I'm headed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where can everyone find you? What's your LinkedIn handle? What's the website? All of the above.
So our website, super easy, Sachili.com. Facebook, Instagram, Sachili Flavours. And I'm just Sachi Kittur on LinkedIn.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and it's got my brain thinking about how I can, inspire my team and do better.
Absolutely. We can come up with a barter system. You help me expand, and I'll give you lots of coaching and advice.
I love it. Sold.
Okay.
Sold. Thank you so much.
Thank you.